So today's Tanya is the 11th of Iyar. And the Alter Rebbe says a very beautiful thing, which is first of all that yesterday we were speaking about this idea of different ways of Tanya is really a book of meditations, different ways of creating love in the heart for Hashem. So one of the ways is the idea of kamayim apanim lapanim. So just as I love you, you love me. So a person realizes how much love Hashem has for them, that Hashem came down to Egypt. And then he gave an example of a king, that this king basically goes to the place, he goes to a person who's lying in the gutter, and then he brings him into the palace, into his throne room. The person's never been there, and he hugs him and he kisses him. The guy would wow, he loved the king so much. So he's kind of continuing along this idea of the hug and the kiss, this intimacy and the love. So he says that's why the mitzvahs say Asher Kedishanu, that made us holy. This is similar to the holiness of a man and a woman, which and the Alter Rebbe explains it in two ways. Number one, when a person does a mitzvah, there's a union and there's a joy of the soul, because basically we don't see it, but all of us have a soul, and the soul is very, very real. I know a lady, very interesting, she has this technique that she can actually talk to the person's neshama. There are very spiritual people that can do that, and it's really unbelievable. Like I did a session with her. Anybody that wants can, I'm happy to share her number. She's a holy woman, and literally she was like my twin sister for 10 years, and she can, after I know some other people that did, and it's like she knows things about people, like the person's hair is straight, really your hair is curly. They're like, just like, it's like straight communication to the neshama. So the neshama, the godly soul, is very, very holy. She actually told me that often what happens is that the godly soul doesn't really want to connect to the body. It's like, doesn't like the body very much, and it's sometimes painful, and sometimes her job is to get the soul to like help the body. She told me once she saw like the soul come in, and she almost, I guess you call it, had a vision how the person like the blood flow started to go better, because all of health is really blood flow. That's why exercise is so important, and especially for the brain as well. And water is so important. It also feeds the brain a lot. Be that as it may. And then she asked the person, so was there anything wrong with your leg? She said, yeah, like I had this issue, and then it just started to flow. Again, I'm happy to share her number. She's happy to help people. Little charge, but otherwise good. So there's a so in other words, the neshama is very, very sensitive. It really senses, it knows, it has probably an extraordinary knowledge and awareness, and it really, its whole joy is the union with Hashem, like the child, the prince in the palace. So when a Jew does a mitzvah, so he literally, we don't see this, is kind of the second point to Alter Rebbe today, said we don't realize what's actually going on. Now when Mashiach comes, I'm quoting from somewhere else, somebody who told me this, that it says Oz Yumalis Chaypina will be filled with joy. Why? Because we'll see, you put on tefillin, you'll see the godliness coming into your hand. You'll like notice these unions, and that's why it has this idea of kiddushin, of like intimacy and union, because it's this kind of union that's happening with Hashem. So on one hand, it's very joyous that you do a mitzvah, you actually unite, let's say your hand with Hashem, you're learning Torah, your mind with Hashem. There's like a real unity. And the Aves, the holy Aves, they saw this, like they were able to see the spiritual effects. And there's certain people today that also, whatever sensitive souls, that can see spirituality. I have a friend, he came to Tzfat, and he probably comes from the family line is a big makubal, but they weren't really religious. He said Tzfat is a very, very, it's like the holiest place. Why? Because the energy that comes from the walls here is much more than anywhere else. So it's like somebody, like this guy senses it in a very real way. So there are people that have these senses that they can see these things and feel these things. So when a person does a mitzvah, Hashem is really uniting with that person. And it's a great joy for the neshama, and it's a great joy for Hashem as well, because this is Hashem's child, Hashem's love. And that's why we have the lush and the terminology of Kiddishonu, who makes us holy. And then the Alter Rebbe says also we elevate to the holiness of Hashem, because Hashem now becomes in us. That's why it says that whoever's doing a mitzvah, you have to stand, because the Shekhinah is there. So Baruch Hashem, Hashem made us like, we don't see these things, we don't realize, so we have free choice, we're able to grow all the time, but maybe that was why I was just thinking on the way here. I was learning it. Maybe that was the Arizal. It's such simcha shel mitzvah, such joy of a mitzvah. So maybe because he could perceive what was going on, that Hashem is uniting with him, it's like unbelievable. And then I guess when Mashiach comes, we'll also have this tremendous simcha shel mitzvah. It says in Chassidus somewhere that the difference, maybe the Tzemach Tzedek said it, the difference between a chassid and a non-chassid is the Why? Because we're learning about all this stuff. And when Mashiach comes, we'll be like, that's what we learned about. Other person will also see it, but he won't have the So the difference between the two is the chayim v'lebracha.